Two ladies join us today, and they're in the hot seats of the Situation Room. Dr. Njoki Wamai is a political scientist and the international relations lecturer at USIU-Africa. Good morning, Dr. Irene.
Good morning.
How are you?
Sad.
You're sad? I would imagine. We'll come into and look into the details of that this morning. Irene Soila is a Kenya Human Rights Commission program advisor, and she joins us as well. Good morning, Irene.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Powering.
Okay. We'll take those. For sure. Karibu sana to the Situation Room this morning. We're looking at the role of women in advancing democracy. It's a larger conversation, but we'll zero into why this conversation comes in. And of course, events on Sunday were not really encouraging to see, to say the least. But before we get into that conversation, we'd like to welcome you today with today's proverb, which Dennis will share, and we'd love to hear your interpretation of the same.
Yeah, so our proverb today comes from the East Africa region. The country is Kenya. And I think before I even give out that proverb, I'd like to tell you just what's that good thing we want to say Kenya is well known for.
Kenya is well known for?
Yeah.
Well known, okay. I mean, so many things. It used to be running, tech, M-Pesa, but now, of course, we are known for the gallant, brilliant youth who are fighting for their democracy in Africa.
Soila.
Kenya is known for the home of Africa. Very inviting, very safe to be in Kenya. From wherever you come from in Africa, it's safe to be in Kenya.
So our proverb today comes from the Luya community, and it speaks of a child who needs to be embraced, and a child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. A child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. How would you interpret that?
I think it's very, very apt in terms of trauma, psychology. Maybe the people who are leading Kenya, where are they burning Kenya? Maybe it's time they checked their childhood, what happened. Maybe they were not embraced enough. Because I know we are thinking through it as the youth, but also let's take it to the next level. What about the people who are running this country? Why would you allow it to burn? Maybe we need to start thinking about the psychology of our leaders.
Soila.
That I must belong. I must be happy about belonging. And when I don't belong, then I don't see the need of it. And so it shouldn't exist if I don't belong. Yeah.
Well, all right. Taking those interpretations for sure. So let's get into this conversation this morning, shall we? On Sunday, in the compound of the Kenya Human Rights Commission, mothers came together, and it was for one message that should there be protests the following day. Mothers essentially were asking, and this was across the divide, it broke social strata, right? To say that, don't kill our sons. That was the message that came through. Before we get to what happened after that, what was the point behind having this press conference on that day, on that presser on that day? What was the reasoning behind that?
All right. The first thing that came, it was just a conversation amongst women that we are not really loud when it comes to the current state of the nation. We're not be felt, and historically women have been part of the struggles of our democracy, not just now, but even before independence. We have had a history of women being involved in attaining independence to even now where we are saying we can enjoy the democratic space that we purport to be in. And so women have been part of this struggle. But then the intensity of where we are right now, it felt like women, we are not so out there. And yet the people who are dying, the people who are now facing, the police brutality are not just even the men, but also the young women who have, taken the bolder step to be out there to ask for a more safe country a more properly defined government that we need, and how they envision it. And so it is the outs not being there as women that we saw the need to probably just keep this voice aloud, so that the women can continue the struggle, and that they should not, get shy away, considering that the current struggle is also being experienced differently. We can now see women being raped in the process of being in the struggle, and so it was a moment to encourage women that it is not a problem, it is not wrong to be on the streets. However, we must also be protected, because it is a constitutional right, and the only thing we are doing is to ask to be heard. And so it is from that history that we were coming. And so women said, can we then just have a discussion in which then our anger is not just felt on the street, but also just addressing the media to let the government know that we are getting targeted now as women, and therefore we should get protection during this time, and even as we engage in the struggle. And so women just decided, let's have a press conference, and then the press conference, from a historical point of view, we can have it at All Saints Cathedral, because All Saints Cathedral was not just decided, it is from a historical place that during the time our women were in the struggle at the Uhuru Park, the only place they found safe was the All Saints Cathedral. And so All Saints Cathedral was coming from a place of safety. So if we did this from All Saints, then we, the women, will not only be heard, but also will be in a very space to speak, not only to ourselves, but also to the larger public. And the church needs to embrace this conversation from a women's lens.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did this meeting take place on Sunday?
And so when the church did not give us a chance to have it at All Saints, because it came a bit late, that they cancelled the presser to happen at the All Saints, we had then to take where is our next space that can be available for us. And so the Kenya Human Rights Commission, because we are part of the Women Caucus, provided the space. And thank you for the Kenya Human Rights Commission, provide the space, because then it is a private facility. The women can come and address the media.
Okay.
So it was at the Kenya Human Rights Commission that all the drama happened.
Okay.
Yep.
So the presser happened. Women came together. One of the messages that came from that was, please don't kill our sons.
Yeah.
Essentially, do not kill our children.
Yes.
And there were women from different divides. We're just going to play a video then of what happened. But just before we do that, this happened after the presser was over or during the presser?
Before.
This happened before the presser.
Yes.
This is very interesting. Let's look at this video and then we'll come back and talk a little bit. So what we're seeing now in this video is that the gates are being forced open, and there are a number of individuals who are trying to essentially take over from the security guards. There are two security guards, one female, one male, trying to stop them from coming into the pedestrian entrance. And then, of course, there are folks who are trying to break down the main gate, which we can then see, for those of you who can see on that screen, that they've now overpowered the security, broken open the gate, and then made their way into the compound and then left the gates open. So we're seeing that is Gitanga Road, I believe.
No, Amboseli.
Amboseli. All right. So that's Amboseli Road. And so they're now in the compound. They've disrupted where a number of women had been sitting, and they have now tried to essentially run for safety and into the tents. I'm not quite sure what they were looking for at this point, but they then did go into some of the facilities there, looking to take stuff away, essentially dispersed the meeting, picked up some,
it's an extension
cable that one gentleman has picked up there. One of these individuals has picked up there, and then making their way towards the buildings. And there are women. It's interesting because this one woman has just walked away very politely. Essentially, some are running away. from these men, and essentially they are threatening them.
So that one just stole a phone there. If you
took her phone that fell out of her hand or fell out of her handbag. He's picked up the phone and walked away. And essentially they are in this building doing as they would please. And it's I'm not quite sure how many minutes this is, but this is a CCTV camera that is capturing all of this from the reception entrance now at this point, and they're now cutting away some things.
And that one has stolen the speaker, if you can see.
Yeah, he's walking away with an entire speaker here.
Yeah.
Has stolen that. And so they congregate at some level and then find their way towards the exit. They seem to be quite happy with themselves.
So they're violently attacking Kwamchetsi Makoha. That's Kwamchetsi.
That's Kwamchetsi Makoha, who is there now. All right, he's been attacked. They take something from him.
Yeah, his phone.
His phone was taken. So now we see the video of them back at the entrance. They're at the gate now. I don't know if they've been joined by more and they want to now come in. There are a couple of women who would look as though they're trying to negotiate with them, or at least ask them to leave. So this happened. Right? We see that having happened. It was, a number of agonizing moments, obviously. So this was before the presser took place. At that point, both of you were there, right? Let's go to you, Doc. What were you feeling at that point? What did you think this was all about?
So first, it was very shocking. You see, it starts at 8:02. That's when 8:02 p.m. So the presser, we were just about to come out. And you can see some women are waiting outside. We were just about to print out the statement, which I have here. And then, and so it was very relaxed. As you can see, some moms came in with their very young children. Many, even others, were like, I just want to actually join this and have our voice, have women's voice recorded, that even at this difficult time of Kenya's winning democracy, we said something. And so many women, many were coming from church, others were coming from home to just also relax, meet other women and say just get their voice heard.
Yeah.
And so it was a very relaxed atmosphere. And if you found even women were singing, the press, like the international press, I saw so many people when I got in were already there, local. So what happened at 2:08 was very shocking to all of us. And so we just we were like inside about to get out with this press statement, and then we see the women running in. And we've been attacked. So of course all we do is open the door. Please get in. We need to be safe. Get in. Get into the building. Let's first, get a safe shelter. And then the goons come right outside us, outside the building, and they're taking phones, as you can see, they're taking everything. And so at that moment, it's when it hit me what's going on and how shocked I was. My default was, we are going to take photos or we are going to take videos of all these people. Women were screaming, children were crying. And before we know it, they're attacking Kwamchetsi Makoha, who is part of the board of KHRC, who was there also to give solidarity, and they started attacking people. Some people were quite brave enough. Some of them, a few men who had joined their partners, others just activists or who were friends of KHRC, went now to try and negotiate. And some women actually, because it was women from all walks of life, women from all ages were there. Because as you saw, there was nothing to hide. It was a press, the invite was everywhere, even in the media. So anybody came in. And so some actually identified some of these young men. And they even said, I know this one, I'm going to actually negotiate and tell them, what are you doing to us? And then that's when finally, I think these young men said, okay, we give you 10 minutes, get out of the building, but there's no press. We're not going to allow you to go on with this press briefing, just get out. we've been sent, you won't do this, get out. And of
They
course,
told you they've been sent?
Yeah. You
Okay.
can't do this, you have to get out. And so we all ran out, especially so scared with the children and everybody, and we got out.
So Irene, as the goons walked in and they broke the doors, and what exactly did they say? Why weren't they allowing you to have the press conference? If they communicated the reasons why they were stopping the press conference from taking place.
Yeah, and I think when they came in, I was the host, and so being the host, there are many logistics that you have to put together so that this then can become a very well and successful event. And so I was in at the time when these goons were coming. If you saw that goon who stole the speaker,
yes,
had just placed the speaker at just near the tent, so that I can connect. And so I was even lucky that I had not even left my phone, because I was to connect with my phone so I can start music. And then now we, to just bring women together. There's a way women, convene and, get happy, because it was on a Sunday anyway. And so when they came in, I was inside trying now to get to see how best I can fix my YouTube with a speaker. And so before I left out is when now I found women running in, and I got confused what exactly is happening. But then I heard loud noises. So actually some other people were just trying to break into the main gate. Now you have seen that video. And before you can recollect everything, you realize that you are actually under attack, and then you start thinking of what is our next action. You have so many women, you have as old as a 90-year-old mother there, grandmother actually, and you're wondering, where do I put these people, And so with all that struggle, you are left at a place where you want to know who is this. And so when we sort of tried to interact, we realized the conversations were like, hamutafanya maandamano hapa, and we wondered, maandamano inatoka wapi hapa? So I think the brief they also had was not right, that even if it was a press conference, it was not a maandamano thing. It was just a press conference to give more prominence to the Sabasaba moment. Okay. And so it was really confusing, but most of the words that they were talking of is that hamutafanya maandamano hapa, sijui ni nani amewaita. And then I heard somebody else saying, ile kichapo tutawachapa leo, mtajua sisi ni kina nani, like those kind of statements to scare away women. But also one thing that I noticed in the whole scuffle is that they realized, I don't know, but I think they realized these are just women, very vulnerable people. And so the moment to say that hatutawachapa lakini we are giving you 10 minutes to leave this place, probably in my view, in my own assessment, is that probably they realize actually we do not have anyone to fight here. All these are just very vulnerable women. The best thing we can do is to allow them to exit. And to tell you what, we also saw women goons. So even when we were fighting the men, we realized there were also women that who were saying, hapa leo ni kina mama na kina mama, mtatutapatana hapa kwa hapa, and I kept wondering, is this a goon? Or now you don't know who is your ally and who is a woman goon. But then the words and what they were saying, and then you can even see some of them, the women at the gate, those ones were not our women, they were the part of the goons. That's why they were throwing their hands, because now they are part of the men now who are coming strongly to push us out. And then in the midst of all those ones, there were also those ones who decided, okay, let's negotiate. We are not going to fight. Mmesema aje tutoke, sawa, tupatieni tutoe wengine, so that we all live together. So it sort of became like, okay, it's okay. We agree. You have won. Now please allow us to take out all these other women, including our old women. And that's how we managed to have women out.
I'm curious to know, how long did the whole scuffle take?
I don't want to say I know the time, but
20 minutes.
It could be something like between 20 to 30 minutes, especially because some people were unable to they were too shocked to leave, and so you're leaving, but then you realize, hey, I've left other people in. You go back to see whether you can negotiate now with the ones who are negotiating to tell them, please go and bring so and so. I have seen, like, I've left so and so, please go for them. So in that whole scaffold, it could be around maximum 30 minutes. That were very intense.
But from the CCTV, you see one camera, you see them from the tarmac now coming to the gate. Some are walking, some running, but some are in threes on motorbikes. They were clearly dropped at the gate. And then we see some trying to push the gate open, and others are trying to push your security guards and to make their way in. During that entire period, did anyone call the police for help? Did you have any security arrangements?
Yes, I would say yes. And I will start by when the lady guard tried to push them out and she was overpowered, the next thing she did was to, I think there's a way, she called for reinforcement. There's a way you can hit an alarm from the security guard company, and that's how they came. Within ourselves, there's a lady who actually had an OCS number, and she called the OCS.
From Mutangari or from where?
Yeah, from Mutangari. She says the OCS is from Mutangari, telling him that, please, we are under attack. Where at blah 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 blah. Would you please ask the police to come and help us? And in fact, after all that, and when they went now to report, the OCS said he had sent his own police officers, and somebody was asking, where are they? And we didn't see them. They said they don't necessarily have to be in uniform.
No.
You get? And so they were asking, then how do we get to know that these ones are the police officers? Yet we didn't see anyone coming to support us. So there was that claim that they really sent their police officers, but we didn't see anyone.
Okay.
Yeah, but we saw now the company bring more reinforcements. Yeah.
Because we can't hear the audio, but what were they saying when they were there?
Like I had mentioned earlier, there were many conversations. And of course there were, I would say, the agitations from their end that we were convening tuko na maandamano, just to use the words. Hapa hakutakuwa na maandamano. And now they were saying these words as they come in. And then you would hear others saying, mtoke haraka sana kabla hatuja break, before they break into the offices. And so ours, actually, the reason why we agreed to actually leave so that they don't do more damage, and especially to the mothers, and also to the facility that we were in. And so there were lots of conversations, but you could also hear that mtoke haraka, wanawake nani amewambia munakuja kufanya maandamano hapo, you know. And so basically that, and it felt like, yeah, they were coming from a position of power than us now who were there, looking like, I mean, we have the orders that you must leave immediately. Yeah.
And it was very clear they had been sent. I think it's part of the greater, this goonship. And I think even using the word goon, we need to say what looks like state-sponsored militias. Because even it's many women identified some of those young men to be well known to them, because some of them had come from, like, the neighborhoods. Katina Ward, one person even allegedly is the brother of the MCA.
Where is Katina Ward, for those who may not know?
Katina Ward.
Yeah, Katina Ward is just a walking distance from Amboseli.
Okay.
It's if you were to go into Kawangware 56, I also don't know, there's a place called Katina that it was just very much a walking distance in Kawangware, but then it's like a small ward within Kawangware.
So Katina is when you are at Amboseli Road, there is a route that you can take and get out through 56 at the back, so you don't have to go through. So yes, it's a walking distance from the area.
Yeah.
I know the place. Yeah.
So some of the mothers who are present could identify some of the goons who...
Yes, they said this is whoever. They even would say the names. But it was very clear. Many of the mothers have actually reported that many of these young men, there was even one who is a relative of the MCA Katina Ward.
Because some of them were masked, some were not. And they were not hiding the identities, really. They didn't they were not really fighting so hard to cover themselves when they're walking around. They were very, very confident.
Yeah.
And so from what happened, have you managed to do an audit? Because we know, for example, outside the attackers believed to, like you're saying, were hired roughed up journalists.
Yes, they did.
And they clearly were singling out the Standard Group journalists. At least 3 journalists lost their cameras, laptops, mobile phones, including a photojournalist from the Standard Group whose mobile phone was also snatched for recording the chaos.
Yeah.
Have you done an audit of what was taken?
We are still doing so. Even today, we are supposed to meet, and I don't know whether it's the right thing to say that we will be meeting with some women. I am grateful to the women that we were with.
You're even scared saying you're going to do another meeting again, right?
Yeah, because we don't want them to be targeted.
Yes.
Because they come from the same villages. So we are going to have them. They have actually just agreed to make sure that they let us know who are these people and even where they have they have sold these items. We were told that they are selling it as little as 10,000 for a laptop. Can be very sad. You've lost a lot of not just even a gadget, but also some information, and it is now getting lost at 2,000 shillings. I'm not saying it should be lost. It should be sold as much, but I think it is more even sad that you're throwing it away with all that information. And so we are meeting, and they have actually even said they are going to report if the police officers are willing to take up this information, because they know their names. If they can take up that and prosecute, so that there will be no such a situation targeting especially women, then they are happy to do so. What has been, and it has been very much loud, is the reluctance of the police or the security to take up this matter. And if this they have really expressed, tumeenda mpaka kwa police station jana na wamekataa kuchukua. You see, like we have the will.
So the police are refusing to record statements?
Yes. So you're given an OB, but you're not given to record your statement and say what exactly is your claim.
So what is the OB number?
I have some OB numbers here, but I don't. Okay, I wouldn't share because of the security of those people. But I have OB numbers they have sent me to say that tumepatiwa OB number, but they have not taken our statement.
And this is at Muthangari Police Station?
Yes, Muthangari Police Station.
And it was very clear that day, I think, meeting the OCS, all he did is, you record, and we said, but we need to record. The whole statement needs to be recorded. You have an officer reporting crime who is ready to do the work. No, just go to DCI. So you can see there's the greater culture that we are actually seeing right now in Kenya. First, infiltration of what we call goons or what looks like state-sponsored militia into not just protests, but even peaceful, anybody who is demanding for accountability. Because if you read our statement, the first thing we do is reaffirm the Kenyan Constitution, the right to protest, the right to political participation as Kenyans. And then after that, call out the state and the police for police brutality. We call out the police for failing in their duty to protect Kenyan mothers, Kenyan women, Kenyan children, because many of these people are. So there is a very clear failure on the state as the duty bearer to provide security for Kenyans, to provide safety for women, mothers. And so it's very clear, even when these women went to report to the OCS Muthangari, he would say, yes, don't worry. He was very casual about it. I know these people. I know some of these. I'll do something. And we asked, no, but what happened? We should be writing very detailed statements. Isn't that, are we not getting that opportunity? And he said, DCI will do it. I'll send you to DCI. So also the backstops with the OCS Muthangari. He needs to, because that's why part of the reason we are saying if we are going to reform this country also, police reform is very important. And even devolution of the police. Because if this OCS was accountable to the people down there, the people of Katina or the people of Lavington, I think he would be more accountable. But he knows right now it's almost like there's a whole let's be easy on these goons and, by the state. Because this Kenya Human Rights Commission case is a test case. If anybody wants to get rid of goons, this is the one case where we can actually see them clearly. Like you've seen the CCTV.
I'm curious to know if we just circle back to why this conversation is very important. Is don't kill our sons.
Yep.
Apart from talking about police brutality, it was the anticipation of Sabasaba, which was yesterday. To the planners, because we've seen time and time again, a lot of meetings are disrupted by goons. And obviously they are clearly sponsored. And a lot of times it's with the politicians. Now it has come to this level of mothers gathering to just speak and goons are sent. Do you think their messaging is effective because it's trying to silence your voices? Or does it actually amplify it? Because to the planners, it may appear they're successful. They've disrupted the meeting. Their job is done, they get their payment, then they go back home to wherever they're coming from. But in your view, when you're doing all this, does this silence you, or does this even amplify your voice even more?
It does amplify the voices, and I'm happy, like I mentioned, the women are even available to report these people if an opportunity presents. So for me, it does not silence any woman further, in any way. Instead, it gives women more power. It tells women that you are needed in this space where there's a lot of silencing, there's a lot of dissent, but also the need for us, the voices of women must be very loud. In our view, our message was sent. As to whether it happened at the time we needed it or not, our message was sent. And our message was very clear. Do not kill our sons. Do not kill our daughters. We need them back home after the mandamanos. Protect our people during the mandamanos. It is a right enshrined in our constitution. So as to whether they didn't give us a chance to do it in the venue does not matter anymore. It is our message that went out there.
Yes, so there is the do not kill our sons, the press statement that you had sent. But then again, let's just look forward to Mandamano, the statement that you had actually you had put out. You look at what happened during Mandamano yesterday, and what you were praying against is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Just what message does this send in terms of, as much as you didn't have the press conference, the message was sent, but then again what you're preaching against is what exactly happened. Is there any semblance of care?
Of course. I think part of the bigger problem, as we are saying, we have a tone-deaf regime. Tone-deaf. A regime that, some of these things are so simple, but when a regime is the first priority is to protect themselves, or what you call survival. I think that's all they're thinking about. How do we make sure we survive up to 2027 and we get in they are saying they're going everywhere saying, is it two-term or something? So when you're dealing with such people, survival is the main intent. And then we have others, the rest, many Kenyans, who are saying, no, you have broken the social contract with us. Because even in political science, it's about the social contract. We gave you the contract. Was it 2 years, 2022? And in that contract, we gave you, we delegated our we delegated our power to you. Remember what is a democracy, or what even democracy means. Demos, people, people power. Yeah. From even if we go back to ancient Greece. So we the sovereignty, and that's why that Article 1 says the power belongs to the people. And so we give this regime power in 2022. But one of the things they don't understand, it's the only thing when Ruto got that sword, it was authority. And at that time, since of course the people who voted for him were more, depending on whatever, he got legitimacy. But that contract has been broken now, and he no longer has legitimacy. But I think the regime is conflating the two, authority and legitimacy. And those are two different issues. So they may still have the authority, but they no longer have legitimacy. And when so we are dealing with an illegitimate and illiberal regime. And when we are dealing with an illegitimate and illiberal regime, the contract is broken. And so the only way I think they're trying to assert themselves and believe they can get back the legitimacy is through force and through all these shady ways. But we need to have a conversation. And that's why you find is it just 1 year or 6 months, I think 8 months ago, the Hungarian president, once that contract broke, he resigned. Yeah, in Japan, when these prime ministers have done so many bad things, they actually commit suicide. It's even worse.
Fall on their sword, literally.
Exactly, they fall on their sword. So we have a regime that clearly is tone deaf and doesn't understand that legitimacy and authority are two different things. You're no longer legitimate. You either need to leave us alone or come and talk to us. Like that day, 25th of June, and yesterday, those were two moments that they lost. Because all they needed to do is, okay, we're even going to have a public holiday. I'm the one the president would have been like, I am ready to hold to be held to account for what happened but they won't do this.
There are many swirling conversations at the moment, and there's a lot of chatter on the ground that the message from the mothers and the women on Sunday and the message from any quarter at this point would be, we decry after the fact. We decry that our sons, brothers have been killed. But that the message should have been, don't go out into the streets, young men and women. Don't go out into the streets, mothers. Just don't go out into the street, because if you go out into the street, then you are inviting this violence upon yourselves. This is chatter. It is real. It's coming from many a quarter. What are your thoughts about that?
Is it Article 37? Protest is a form of political participation. If the regime, as I'm saying, was legitimate and had that legitimacy, probably there are other channels, and we say that there are so many other channels, and I think Kenyans have been trying many other channels. There are people who write the media, you talk about these things every day. Mothers I'm sure there are even people who meet these leaders at a very personal level and tell them things are not working. If that fails, that's when people go to protest. And I mean, the challenge we have also with the current regime, and I think the previous ones, and maybe most of Kenya's regimes, they have really never understood what is a liberal democracy. Because what we have in Kenya actually is not really a democracy. It's more what we call an electoral democracy. Because when we have a liberal democracy, two things are sacrosanct: freedom and liberty. And protecting the Bill of Rights as it is in the Constitution, what we call negative rights, is the first priority of anybody in power. And of course, making sure then that they give the other socioeconomic rights by providing the right to housing, food, and that kind of thing. So we have, it's, as I said, a government with a serious legitimacy crisis, but they're still hanging on to authority. And even if mothers, so you can't tell mothers, or mothers should not tell their kids, don't go out. Of course, that's a very legitimate fear. We should be telling the state, stop violating, and that's what we were doing in that. Stop violating our young people. Protests have been done peacefully. There are countries that protest every day. Right now, if you Google people, I'm sure later today in France, in Paris, they'll be on the street.
We're getting towards the 14th of July. It's going to happen. Yes.
The French are forever on the street. Have you heard of deaths apart from maybe one, and people protested for a whole year like 2 years ago? You never hear about that. In Tbilisi, I saw in Georgia, people are on the street. And that's another place this Kenyan police needs to find out how to reform a police force. So the point is, there are many countries in the world that protest every day. In fact, Kenya's protests are so few compared to serious democracies. And people, young men and young women go, or even old people come to the protest and still go home in one piece. That's the Kenya we want, and it can be done. But we need the right leaders who actually respect human rights. But the current ones, of course, they're under siege. All they think about is how to maintain power. So it's a different mindset of leaders we have.
Yeah, and in addition, just to add and say that you cannot stop people to go out when people are struggling. Demonstration is an expression of anger, an expression of dissatisfaction. And so even me as a parent, as much as I feel like my child, I need to keep my child for safety, there are legitimate reasons why these kids are out there, and that the only thing that we need to do, or the only right thing to do by this government, is to give them a listening ear, which is not what they are getting. And instead, the government is still trying to wake up, or even not able to wake up from the old system of operations. If you look at the millennials and the people before, those people were governed in fear. But we now have people who do not have that fear, and the way they've been brought up is very different by their own parents. Probably I brought up my children in a way to say that I don't want them to be or to face the difficult life that I faced, and in the process of that I give them a lot of empowerment that they can be out there and speak for themselves. We were not given, millennials were not given that chance. We were brought up in the space of fear, and so we need to see a government that is waking up to that reality, and that the old system of governing is not working. So therefore, how do we make sure that the young people can not only feel our presence or our systems are good for them in a space where there's no employment, in a government where the economic situation is very difficult for everyone, including even those who have the little money. They're equally struggling. So how do we make sure that as we make things better, they're listening and that they're working with us? That's not what we have. We are having a government that is resisting the cry of its people. It can't work.
It can't work. But these are the voices that need to remain loud, and they need to be amplified.
Yeah.
And if that's the fight towards democracy, then you got to keep the boots on the ground. Dr. Njoki Wamai is a political scientist and a lecturer at USIU-Africa, as well as Irene Soila, the Kenya Human Rights Commission Program Advisor, have been our guests this hour. We're both there Sunday and are still amplifying voices and saying we got to keep going. Thank you both for being in the Situation Room this morning. Asante at 8 a.m. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.